we're going to bring up your next speaker. That's going to be the wonderful, magnificent Chris James.
If you talk about how much you hate your fat, your body has been working all this time to keep you alive. I don't think anybody in my circle understands impossible. Hi, I'm Chris James. You're watching A Healthy Alternative. We're going to be talking today about how, you can lose 100 pounds. You're just going to gain it all back anyway. Let's get into it. All right, so listen, the comment section's been popping. The past couple of videos I've done have done very well of attracting a lot of new people to the group, to the channel, I should say. And so y'all been, a handful of y'all been wilding in the comments. One of the comments that I got that really irked me was surrounding this idea that I've been talking about our 80 and 90 challenge where you're able to lose 80 pounds in 90 days. We've got people talking about how that's dangerous to lose that much weight that fast. We got people talking about how I'm going to hurt people. We got people talking about how, you can lose the weight. Okay, cool. You're on my side? No, but you're just going to gain it all back anyway. So today we're going to talk about why, yes, you could lose 100 pounds, but why you may gain it back. Because I want there to be clarity around this. See, here's the thing. When people say, you could lose 100 pounds, you're just going to gain it all back anyway, what they're actually saying is what you're doing is pointless. Because rapid weight loss techniques don't work, whether you do it using fasting or whether you smoke crack, right? It doesn't work. The reality is how you approach your health and wellness journey will give you two completely different outcomes depending on how you approach it. While in most traditional weight loss methods, you are going to be on that extreme yo-yo. When you approach things the way that we teach it through fasting and dietary strategy, it is completely up to you whether or not you ride that roller coaster. So let's get into it. Now, the first thing is, crash diets. If you use a crash diet to lose 50 pounds, 80 pounds, 100 pounds, then you're probably going to struggle tremendously with your weight thereafter because you use something that's going to slow your metabolism. So you've got the extreme caloric restriction diets that are going to strip your muscles. It's going to dehydrate you. It's going to slow down your metabolism. And of course, the weight kind of piles back on quickly when you go back to quote unquote normal eating. Well, I think it's interesting because the idea that you're going to go back to normal eating is one of the things that we are against in the first place. It doesn't matter what type of dietary strategy you choose, it needs to be something that is sustainable. See, here's the thing. Why did you gain the 100 pounds in the first place? Why were you 100 pounds overweight in the first place? If you gained the 100 pounds in the first place by going to Aunt Annie's and eating them fresh pretzels every time you go to the mall, guilty, okay? If you go to McDonald's after work for breakfast, lunch, dinner, everything, and you get, one of their combo meals, then that may be the reason why. If you're on medication that causes dysfunction in the body and you have not addressed the root cause of those issues, that may bleed over into your weight. We've seen that happen many times. So there's many reasons why we gain the weight to begin with. Now, here's one thing I need you to understand. Fasting is not a magic bullet. As a matter of fact, I have not found a magic bullet in all of my research. It doesn't matter if you do traditional medical practices for weight loss, whether it's liposuction or getting your stomach stapled, or whether it's fasting or tahini nonin juice or it's slim fast. No method that you employ is going to work indefinitely. Everything has to be maintained. So I don't understand why people even say things like, of course you're going to lose the weight. Yeah, okay, but you're just going to gain it all back. It's like, if I start training for a marathon, right, and I'm doing all of the traditional things you would do to train for a marathon, and I run that marathon, and I place in top 10, and then I go 5 years without training, and then I go out and I try to run and place top 10, and I don't place top 10, we know that makes sense. That's obvious. You didn't train. You didn't maintain. You didn't continue to get better. Of course you didn't place top 10, right? Why is it that people expect you're going to fast, you're going to lose 100 pounds, and magically it won't come back? If you go back to your old habits, you're going to gain the weight back. So let's make that abundantly clear, because I've never said the contrary. I've never made it sound like, oh, you could lose this weight and then you're done forever. But I digress. Let's move on. How do you avoid gaining the weight back? If you start with a crash diet, the way you start is how you're going to finish, okay? Use methods like fasting to regulate the metabolism. See, fasting doesn't wreck the metabolism like a lot of these caloric restriction diets. It actually boosts your metabolism. You get better functionality out of your metabolism. That's pushing you in the right direction. You can also use something like OMAD, right? This is a great tool to help maintain the weight loss that you've obtained through fasting. This gives you a little bit of leeway to eat a little more dirty, right? If you're just having trouble keeping it together with your eating habits, but also it provides you with basically a 24-hour fasting window every single day. So you have a ton of grace, but you get to maintain your results. You get to interact socially. It is a great way to approach it. Now, if you want to play with the more whole foods, then you don't necessarily have to lean too much on a 1 meal a day strategy. But what I'll say is focus on rebuilding your metabolism and not restricting it. Okay? We want to nurture our bodies and not beat our bodies up. And that's what crash diets do. So avoid losing 100 pounds with a crash diet. Now, here's the other piece. There's a mental piece to this as well. There's several mental pieces, but it's the reality that, look, you lost 100 pounds, but during that time, you didn't heal your relationship with food. You're not allowed to skip that part, y'all. We are emotional eaters. We live in a world that is driven by emotion. When someone passes, you go to the funeral, you cry, and then you eat. When someone graduates from college, you go to the ceremony, you celebrate, then you eat. When someone has a baby, a newborn or something like that, you send them little plates of food or whatever to celebrate the birth of their baby. Or before the baby's born, you have a party and you bring gifts and you eat. You break up with your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your husband, you get divorced, you celebrate your divorce, you eat. You mourn your relationship, you eat. Okay? So we have to learn how to build a better, healthier relationship with food. So during this period of time, let's say that you're utilizing something like the AHA 80 and 90. If you're over the course of 90 days, you have 3 months to work on healing your relationship with food. Because if you are dealing with 100 pounds to lose, you probably have a poor relationship with food, even if you don't know it or if you don't want to admit it. And this is the time you can start doing that work. So you diet it with discipline, but you never address the emotional eating, the trauma, and your belief system around food. That's the problem. You can heal the body. The thing is, you can't heal the body with a broken mindset. You can never solve a problem using the same mindset that created the problem in the first place. If we try to do that, we're only fooling ourselves, and eventually we're going to end up spiraling and we're going to be on that yo-yo or that roller coaster everybody talks about. So how to avoid that? I want you guys to focus on journaling. Food journals help a lot during your weight loss process, tracking what you eat, how it makes you feel, how your body digests it. Reflect on everything during your fast. We've got AHA communities. So that is our free membership where you guys can come join and fellowship with other people who are on their health journeys. Being able to post and talk about your experience is very helpful. Getting feedback for other people who are having similar challenges is very helpful. Okay? You've got to be able to unpack your emotional programming as it relates to food. Remember, especially if you were born in the 80s and you grew up in the 90s as a child or adolescent, the propaganda in the 90s was off the charts. If in my opinion, the propaganda in the 90s specifically was the most intense of all time. And obviously I haven't lived in other times, but I have studied other times. Propaganda during that time was crazy. And so if you grew up during that time, even if you were an adult during that time, you were susceptible to the propaganda. You know what I mean? So we have to deprogram all of that stuff. Now, what's another reason why you could, lose 100 pounds and just gain it all back again? It's not just because. If you lose 100 pounds and you gain it all back again, there's a reason. Well, did you heal your gut during that time? See, a toxic gut and damaged microbiome is actually going to create nutrient deficiencies. It's going to drive cravings, it's going to drive low energy, and it's going to enhance your self-sabotage. Self-sabotage. What is self-sabotage? Okay, you've been doing good for the past 3 weeks. Okay, I'm rocking out. I lost what? Shoot, I'm rocking with Chris James, so I done lost 15, 20 pounds. Cool. Things are looking good. You know what, man? I gotta celebrate myself. I gotta give myself a little treat. I gotta give myself a cheat day. I don't even like the word or the phrase cheat day. The reason why is because if you're gonna have something that you know you're not supposed to have, meaning you have a goal and this goal is to the left and what you're about to eat is going to the right. So it just means you're not supposed to have it because you're supposed to be going to the left. That's not a cheat day. That is a decision. That's what that is. You're making a decision. I want you to own that decision. Say, hey, you know what? I want some pizza. And my thing is this. Don't have pizza because you're craving it. Don't have pizza because some arbitrary reason it's a Thursday and you always have pizza on Thursday. Have pizza because over the past 3 weeks, you've been in complete control of your dietary strategy, your habits, and because you've just decided, you know what, today I'm going to have it. What we don't want to do is we don't want to give in to cravings. So if you've been doing it for 3 weeks and now all of a sudden you have a craving for pizza, and because you have a craving for pizza, you're like, well, it's okay to have a cheat day, and then you decide to have pizza, that's not the way you want to do that. That's how you're going to gain the 100 pounds back again. What you want to do is say, it's been 3 weeks, I'm having a craving for pizza. All right, boom, I'm not going to have pizza today then. I won't have pizza until I decide to have pizza based off of my just a mental decision, not because of a chemical craving. And it doesn't matter what it is. I'm just using pizza as an example because guilty as charged, pizza is one of my favorites. That's one of the things that when I very first started my health and wellness journey, that was one of the things that like I had difficulty with. Pizza and ice cream and like chocolate, I guess. Like every once in a while I wanted like a candy bar. So those things really plagued me. And this is what I did. I told myself, if I'm craving it, I'm not having it. And then if I do have it, at some point I was just like, you know what? I'm just start making pizza from scratch. Because if I'm going to have it, I'm going to control what the ingredients are. I'm going to control the quality of the food. And my body digested that way better than the stuff I would buy from the fast food chains. So there's ways to make your quote unquote cheat day just intentional. Be intentional. Hey, you know what? I'm going to have pizza. By the way, instead of going to Papa John's, I'm going to make it from scratch. Trust me, I love pizza. Homemade pizza is good, especially when you use high quality ingredients and you play around with different recipes, you learn some techniques. You can have some really high quality pizza that will digest much easier than the stuff you get from the store. And then that way you can have your cake and eat it too, kind of, right? You still want to have it in moderation. But, and I told you guys this in one of my most recent videos, I would make deals with myself. Hey, you can only have cookies if you make them from scratch. You can only have ice cream if you make it at home. So it's like you can have it, but you got to make it from scratch. And what that did was it deterred me from having it as frequently. And then when I did have it, I had a better experience and I digested it much better because it didn't have all that crazy stuff in it. And it was fun, right? So by approaching it this way, you're going to allow the body, the environment to heal the gut, to replenish those microorganisms, and ultimately that's going to help you maintain once you're finished. Okay, you got to take advantage of the time you're using to lose weight because your body is sensitive. So you want to get it tuned to a different frequency while it's sensitive, and you want to make sure that frequency is in harmony with the direction you want to go or the person you want to be. Now, you can always lean easy on just simply, leaning heavy on fruits. Fruits, raw foods, fiber, natural fermentation, things of that nature will help to restore the gut. It will eliminate mucus. And here's the thing. The cravings that you have for different foods, or pizza, we'll say we've been talking about it, the body will start to move that out of your system. You guys need to understand that if you consume the chemicals, the different foods that you struggle with while you're losing weight, you're going to continue to struggle with those foods because you're never really eliminating the cravings. The chemical constituents of the foods, they continue to stay in your bloodstream and a part of you. So ultimately, it's better to get away from that stuff. But as you're at the beginning part, in beginning stages, it's okay to use some of these other techniques I'm talking about. That's what I did. And then I think just give yourself time. You know, I transitioned my diet over the course of a year. I didn't try to do it in 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. But if you want to, you certainly can. I know a lot more now than I did then, right? Another reason why you might gain all the weight back after losing 100 pounds is because you ignored your hydration and cellular health. Here's the thing. I certainly believe that dehydration, cellular dehydration, is at the root of all disease. All right? That's either very close to the truth. That's either the truth or very close to it. So if we focus heavily on cellular hydration while we're losing this weight, not only are you going to be able to maintain the weight loss much better down the line, you're also going to avoid loose skin, right? So cellular dehydration is the reason why you get loose skin. If you go on to a weight loss warpath and you're just angry man, woman, work out at the gym, sweat, push, break your body down, and you don't give your body hydration, you're gonna have loose skin. You're also gonna put stress, unnecessary stress on your joints, your muscles. You're going to be inflamed. You're gonna probably look good. You're gonna definitely aesthetically look good, but it's gonna come at a cost. Okay, so if you're gonna push yourself at the gym, make sure you're giving your body proper resources to heal. That is rest, that's hydration, that's proper nutrition. Okay, if you're not giving yourself rest, hydration, proper nutrition, don't forget about sunlight and fresh air, then you're pushing yourself at the gym. You're just gonna damage yourself in the long run. Okay, you may see some amazing results short run, but I mean, how many healthy looking people have we seen die at 55 of a heart attack? It's health and fitness are not the same thing. They definitely are in the same vein, like they're in the same family, but they're not exactly the same. Okay, you could be very fit and be very unhealthy. You could be very healthy and be very unfit. You know, and like, I'll say this: you're never gonna max your health out and be very unfit, but literally, like, you can be quote unquote healthy, but you can't run very far because your cardio is down. Like you don't have good cardio health. So when it comes to health and fitness, it's people like think they're the exact same thing and they're just not. One way that you guys can increase your hydration levels seamlessly is to get yourself a high quality sea salt. You put a grain under the tongue, let it dissolve, and then drink water. If you do that, when you have a complete sea salt, it has magnesium in it, and it will actually draw water into the cell. So that's one trick. You can also focus on high water content, juicy fruits, vegetables, however you guys want to describe them. A lot of people think cucumbers are a vegetable even though they're a fruit, whatever. So cucumbers are an incredible fruit that you could use for hydration. Watermelon, apples, plums, bell peppers, those sorts of things, all very high water content. And they have H3O2, which the body can utilize very readily. The body doesn't really need to convert that into cellular water like it would with H2O. So if you want to cheat, eat your water. That's the cheat code, okay? Now, another thing we miss out on with our wellness journeys, especially something that lasts a duration of 3 to 6 months or more, we don't focus on building new habits. We actually skip habits, lifestyle, and support systems. We're so focused on the weight. We're so focused on got to get that pounds off, focused on the scale and, the aesthetics of it. We forget all of the, it's kind of like having a basketball team with all superstars, like superstar quality people, but they have no fundamentals. You know what I mean? Like if you have a basketball team of of people that have superstar quality, talent, but they have no fundamentals, they will lose every time against a fundamentally sound team, right? So in order to maintain the progress you've made, you've got to work on the fundamentals at the same time that you're losing your weight. So build healthy habits. This means we got to go into it looking at it like it's a lifestyle. Okay? We need structure. We need community. We need to identify old behavior patterns. Why? Okay, let's say you're a beer drinker. Why do you drink beer? Do you drink beer while you're at work? No, probably not. Most people don't. If you're construction, okay, I know y'all drinking beer at work. But most people don't drink beer at work. Why? Because it's inappropriate. Okay, cool. Do you drink beer at home in front of your children? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. That's on you, right? Do you drink beer when you're around a certain friend group, right? One friend group, you don't drink beer. Another friend group, you do drink beer. Do you drink beer when you go out on dates? Think about like why you're drinking, where you're drinking, who you're drinking around. Are you good all day long till you get home and your kids stress you out so you got to grab a cold one? Do you feel less confident when you go out to the club and talk to women so you got to grab a cold one? Do you get annoyed by a particular person, whether it's your significant other or whatever, and to mellow you out you got to grab a cold one? Like, do you go and drink after work because you can't drink at work, but the people at work like stress you the F out, and so you got to go grab a cold one? Like, think about all of those things. And I'm using beer as an example, but it could be anything. It could be a Snickers bar. It could be cupcakes. It could be pizza. It could be pie. It could be, I don't know, rice and noodles, Thai food. It doesn't matter. You need to identify your environment, how your environment affects your habits, your eating habits, and you need to make changes that are in alignment with where you want to go. If you do that over the course of 3 months, 6 months, a year, then you're going to build better habits. You're going to identify when you're slipping back into old habits, and you'll build resources to help you be more successful. It's just a natural part of it. Okay. So I do want to say that one of the ways you could do this and make it a little bit more seamless is, once again, to put yourself around other people on the same path. You can get different ideas from them. So I'm going to leave the link to AHA communities in the comment section of this video, in the description box, because this is an environment where you can be yourself. You could talk about what you're doing. You're not going to get negative backlash. People are there to support you, and you can ask questions like, hey guys, what do you do when you struggle with XYZ in this particular environment? And because there's tens of thousands of people in there, somebody's going to have the same experience as you. And somebody's going to have a piece of advice for you. Okay? So that's all very important to maintaining as well. Now, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but one of the other reasons why you may end up gaining all the way back is because you spent your entire time focusing on the scale instead of healing. So healing is not just about weight loss. As a matter of fact, if you guys really rock with me, you know that weight loss is the cherry on top, in my opinion. We highlight weight loss because is what draw people in, but the reality is healing is so much deeper than that. During this time, you're already putting towards the most effort. If you're fasting, if you're playing with dietary strategy, if you're doing what we teach, you're already putting the effort towards it. You might as well go ahead and just go the extra mile and focus on deep healing. Whether that's if it's developing a habit of meditation each day, developing a habit of prayer each day, developing a habit of mindfulness each day, where you look out in nature and you project gratitude for the abundance that we're provided with in the earth. It's very important to focus on holistic wellness, okay? If you chase a number, you might lose fat, but you might actually still be toxic and inflamed. How you lose the weight matters. And when you practice mindfulness, prayer, and meditation during your process, it naturally leads you into healing. For example, if you're just focused on weight loss, you could do something that is really detrimental to your system, But because you lost weight, you just keep doing it. And because you don't have that mindfulness, and you don't kind of look at retrospectively at what you're doing and how it's impacting your body, you continue to do that. Now you lose the weight, but then once you stop doing that thing, your body spirals because you've damaged it along the way. So it's important to understand how what you're doing is impacting you. And there are techniques that I even suggest, but I make sure to say, hey guys, don't overdo it with this stuff. For example, colonics. Colonics are incredible tools for irrigating out the bowels and the colon and the intestinal tract, right? However, if you're doing a colonic, you know, let's just say you're doing a colonic every week, because anything more than that, I think most people would feel is probably unreasonable. You're doing a colonic every week. Now, if you do a colonic 3 weeks in a row, no big deal. But if you're doing a colonic every week for the full 90 days or 6 months or whatever, now you're abusing, because your body is naturally designed to flush, right? So if you're using an unnatural process to flush, it means that you're not being mindful about what you're consuming or allowing your body to rest or heal or whatever, and you can create damage, and then you can weaken the muscles that will naturally help you have bowel movements, and now you're like dependent on colonics in order to move, and that's not good. Even though it was a great tool to use in moderation, you overdid it because you saw every time you flushed, you lost 5 pounds. You got addicted to that scale. See? So this is just an example. We have to be mindful and watch out for them scales. Watch out for that weight loss. Don't get so caught up. And the other thing too about weight loss is you lose X amount of weight. And if you're so focused on weight loss, if you gain a little bit of weight during that process, you want to quit. I've had so many people be like, you know what, Chris, I was doing well. I lost 20 pounds in, 10 days. I feel great. But then on day 11 and 12, I didn't lose anything. And it's like, what am I doing? I might as well just quit. It's like, no, you just lost 20 pounds in 12 days. That's incredible. Right? So it's important to keep frame and make sure that you understand what you're doing and how it's benefiting you holistically. Okay. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about this. You lost your 100 pounds, but you didn't have a re-entry strategy or a refeed plan. You didn't have a refeed plan coming off of your process, and you didn't have a re-entry strategy, which is really a maintenance plan. So we often talk about what is a fast. A fast is the preparation, the fasting cycle, and the refeed. Okay? So that is a fast. There's another piece to it that I wouldn't consider the fast, but is just as important, and that's your maintenance. If you guys have listened to my content, you might have heard me use a term maintenance fast. You might have heard me talk about, we talked a little bit earlier about 1 meal a day is great for maintenance. Or you might hear me talk about intermittent fasting is great for maintenance. If you lose 100 pounds and you go into an intermittent fasting schedule where you're doing a 16-8, then that's probably one of the only times where I'll be like, okay, you could use a 16-8 for maintenance. And even still, a 16-8 intermittent fasting schedule, you still got to eat healthy. You still can't just eat whatever you want because the fasting stint is not long enough. So if you know you're still having trouble with food, you still want to push. You don't want to be doing those 16-8, because you need a longer fast in order to keep yourself from reverting. Now, if you do a combination of improving your dietary strategy, your lifestyle, and you do a moderate fasting strategy thereafter, then you'll maintain and it'll be no problem, right? So you can rotate throughout your process of losing the weight. You're going to learn about mono fasting. Maybe you're going to learn about dry fasting, water fasting, and juice fasting, right? So during your maintenance, just go back to some of your favorite fasts, and I do recommend that throughout this process, you play with different fasting strategies and see what you like. But go to let's say dry fasting is one of your favorite methods, which it is for a lot of people. Well, guess what? You could just dry fast once or twice a week, or you could dry fast for 3 days out of the month. or you could dry fast for 1 week out of the month, right? You could do whatever you want. You play around with it, but that needs to be a part of the plan. What you're not allowed to do is use whatever fasting method or dietary strategy for 3 months to lose 100 pounds and then just go back to normal. You can't just drop it all. Okay, we talked about that earlier. Fasting is not a magic bullet. Here's a very important piece, and I find this with people who have been overweight for the majority of their adulthood. They struggle a lot with this, and it's your identity. See, here's the thing. You lose 100 pounds, you look different, but inside you feel like the old you, right? Identity is always going to override behavior. So if you identify with being obese here, that's what you're going to output. The reason you were obese in the first place is because you did obese stuff. You did what obese people do. The reason why you deal with depression is because you do what depressed people do. Birds of a feather flock together. They say that you want to dress for the job that you want, not the job you have. Why? Because it gives you a sense of drive, ambition, purpose. It also showcases to the people around you mean business. So they'll get out your way. I don't know, ladies, I don't know if you realize this. And I don't know if this is going to get me in trouble or not, but you know me, I don't care. Ladies, when you dress a certain way and you go out in public, the way men interact with you will change based on how you dress. Can any of the women verify that? If you go out in public with a very short skirt on, showing a lot of skin, your belly button, whatever, guys are a lot more flirty and frisky, and they'll maybe scream stuff at you. Hey, girl, versus if you're wearing like a floral print dress with some wedges, and you have your hair done a certain way. Like, men just interact differently, right? That's just the reality of things. Well, I use that as an example because I feel like men and women both can, men, we know that we do, like, when a woman presents a certain way, it would just naturally, we just act different towards them. Well, imagine that the other side of it is how you feel when you dress a certain way or you present yourself a certain way, right? So people react and respond differently to you, but you also feel different. So it's important to visualize yourself how you want to be. If you are dealing with obesity and you have the habit of sitting and drinking a 2-liter Mountain Dew and playing video games, you already know what that visualization gets you because you've been living that reality, okay? So then you have to think, well, what would the healthy version of me be doing? Probably not drinking a 2-liter of Mountain Dew and playing video games. Maybe the healthy version of me is out skating and getting a smoothie. So you have to visualize the version of you that has the outcomes you want and constantly reframe your behavior around that. Hopefully this is making sense because I feel like I'm overselling it. But the point is, every outcome in life starts as a thought. Your thoughts become actions. So you have to have the right internal frame in order to get the outcomes you want. If you try to cheat it, if you don't do this internal work, then guess what? You'll lose 100 pounds, but you gain it all back. All right. We've talked about many reasons why people end up gaining the weight back at the end of their health and wellness journey. But let's just say you do everything right. Okay? Well, you do most things right. But then, let's say now it's 3 months, 6 months after you've lost the weight and you've been maintaining, and then life happens. And then you go back into those bad habits. You reintroduce those old foods. Here's a piece of the puzzle that rarely people talk about. When you lose 100 pounds and you've kept it off for a year, life still lifes. that doesn't stop. So maybe you've been in a space where things have been going really well for you, or you've been in a space where things have gone well enough where you can maintain it and you're doing well. But then life will throw a curveball at you, and that's part of the process as well. What I had to learn was this is not a quick process, not because you can't get the outcomes quickly, but because it takes a lot for you to have to go through different versions of yourself in life and then maintain your frame even when life is lifing. That's the part that makes things difficult. You know, you have a fallout with one of your best friends, or you've been working really hard to get a position at work, and instead of getting the new position, you lose your job completely. When those types of things happen, that's what really tests your character. So everything we talked about up until this point, it's building a structure and a foundation so that when something like this happens, you don't completely fall off the wagon. Now listen, you're human. You're going to waver. You know, and everybody's waivers look a little different. You might waver for a month. You might waver for 2 months. But as long as you keep in the back of your head, I got to get back on track. You do not allow yourself to fall into despair. When you beat that cycle, because life does this. It's just a cycle. Life does this. You're going to have ups and downs. When you beat that cycle, you're going to be stronger for it. And guess what? Whatever it was that got you off your square for the past couple of months or couple of weeks or whatever it was, it will never work on you again. Okay? So I want you guys to look at the hard times as teaching moments, as beneficial, because there is no good and bad in our reality. It's only how you perceive it. Two things. One, the same thing can happen to two different people, and because of their perception of it, they have two completely different interpretations of that event. All right. You listen. Hopefully this video was insightful for you guys. If you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button. I've got the 80 and 90 challenge going on right now. If you guys want to grab the free PDF guide and join that challenge for free, I have the link in the description as well as the comment section. And then if you guys want a physical version of that 80 and 90 guide where you can touch it, feel it, write in it, play with it, you can order that as well. I have all those options in the comment section. Hit that like button for me. Subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, the application of knowledge is power. And I will see you all next time. Peace.